What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. About 30 minutes ago, I ran a poll asking you guys what the topic of today's video should be, and it seems like most of you want to see an analysis on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Now, I do believe that that is probably the more relevant video right now, as today we saw a very nice upside move on the NASDAQ and broke out of some very key levels on both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. This could definitely hint at some upside here. There is a very important level that we did break above, and I want to go ahead and share it with you guys today. So I'm going to make a full video on the NASDAQ, on the S&P 500, give you guys a good idea of what occurred today on the technicals, and then we're going to save the Costco swing trade for our Thursday video. So I hope you guys enjoy this video today. I hope you enjoy the analysis. If you do, make sure to press that like button before you head out. And of course, if you want to get daily analysis on both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 every single morning in the pre-market, make sure to join me in my pre-market live streams starting every day at 8 a.m. So guys, we're going to go ahead and start this video off on the daily chart on the NASDAQ. Start on the daily, go down to the 4-hour, break it down to the hourly, and really get an in-depth analysis here on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. As you can see on the screen, I've removed all of my lines, all of my zones, and we're going to redo it here on the video today. So the first thing that I want to point out are the moving averages, the 20, the 50, and the 100. The 20 is the blue, the 50 is the yellow, and the 100 is the green. Now, what you guys can see today, which is pretty influential, we did go ahead and break above the 50 SMA today for the first time since March 21st. March 21st, March 22nd was the last time that the NASDAQ traded above the 50 SMA. That happened today for the first time since then. So that is very important, right? That's the first thing that I'm definitely looking at. We are above the 20. We held it as support. We have broken above the 50. And the next moving average that most of us will focus on is the 100 SMA, and that is up here at around 13,000. So 20 and 50 SMA, we are now trading above that after today's price action. That's the first thing that I want to go ahead and point out. Now, if we zoom into some of the shorter term price action, which I will zoom into the last few months, here's a few things that I want to show you guys. The first thing that I want to show you is the higher lows that have formed on this market. You guys can see from the lows of June to around now, we have seen a very nice consistent higher lows and a very nice uptrend on this market. I know this is a short-term uptrend. I know the longer-term downtrend is still there. If I zoom out, we can quickly draw that longer-term downtrend. That is clearly still there, right? So we are nowhere near the longer-term downtrend. That is not really what I'm getting across today, that we're going to go up, we're going to go to all-time highs. That's not what I'm trying to get across here. But what I am noticing here is that we're starting to find somewhat of a short-term bottom potentially. We're trying to find some kind of momentum to the upside over the last few weeks. So the long-term downtrend is still there. We're still in a bearish market. We are still downtrending on the overall market. But if we zoom in and we focus more on the short term for short-term trading opportunities, the first thing that I want to point out is that we have made three consecutive higher lows on the NASDAQ. Now, the biggest thing that I want to point out today is the break over 12,250. That level comes in right here, 12,250. I'm going to go ahead and put it on my chart. I'm going to correct this to be 12,250 exactly. This is the biggest thing. This is the biggest takeaway of today's video. And I'm about to show you that on the shorter term time frame. So if I go ahead and break this down to the 1-hour chart, guys, and I zoom out, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more time here. Go to the 90-day 1 hour. What you guys are going to see is that for the first time since around, what is this? This is June 10th. Since June 10th, we have made a higher high after today's price action. You can see that we were finding resistance in this level. You can see if I draw this zone out around 12,250, we had a consolidation, we had a rejection and a breakdown. We had a rejection right here. We had a rejection right here. And today, if I go down to the 5-minute chart, you guys can see that we were able to break this 12,250 level on the NASDAQ, hold it as support into end of day, and start to push higher in the after hours right now. So to me, that 12,250 break is actually very important. If I go ahead and zoom out a little bit, take these moving averages off the screen, you are going to see that we have broken out of a pretty important rejection point on this market. You can clearly see the rejection here, the rejection here. You can see where this was previous consolidation, and you can see how we bounced off of it back here, bounced off of it back here. So this 12,250 level is a very important level on the NASDAQ, and you can see today we got our first green candle to close above that level. I'm not saying that this is going to cause some type of huge market rally, but this definitely does show us that there is some bullishness above this level. To me, the next area that we need to be watching is right here around this 12.5, 12.50, right in this zone. And then we will be looking at the 13,000 level, right? You can see that the next zone is probably around this 12.5. There is previous lows in this area, previous low, previous low, previous low, previous low. And then we had the previous rejections here at 12.5 as well. So between 12.250 and 12.5, I think you could probably see a pretty quick move to the upside. The reason for that is if you see these moves from back in June and back in May, they were very quick. There was not much consolidation in this zone. Quick upside, quick downside, right between 250 and 500. So now that we are trading above 250, I believe you could possibly see a pretty quick move up to 12,500. Now, let me premise this. There is a lot of things going on in the overall macroeconomic environment. You have a lot of earnings going on, and you have a lot of economic news coming out next week. So this could definitely change the overall momentum or the overall direction of the market. But if we are strictly looking at technicals here, today we definitely saw a technical breakout above that 12,250 level on the NASDAQ. So now that we are above that 12,250, I want to see us hold that as support, right? My next goal is to see 12,250 now turn into support. If I go down into the 30-minute chart, if I look at this 12,250, my goal now is to see this turn into support and start to see if the market can hold above this rejection point. So you can see on the 30-minute chart, rejection, rejection. The key now is to see if the market can hold above this level. If we can turn 12,250 into support, then I think the bulls will keep control here, and you probably will see that push into 12,500. So I want to zoom out once again back to the daily chart and give you an idea of some upside levels that we need to watch out for. We were talking about that 12,500. That is definitely a level to watch out for. If we break above that 12,500, the next big level here on the daily chart is towards 12,900 to 13,000. The reason for this is you can see we had previous lows in March that broke below in late May. We had that breakdown in May. We came back to it. You can see how this previous support turned into a rejection point right here around 12,900, 13,000. And you can see that now the 100 SMA is sitting right there at 13,000, 12,900 on the NASDAQ. So if we get upside, I believe it will be very difficult to see a move above 12,900, 13,000. If we get some short-term upside on this market, I believe that move will start to stall around 12,900 to 13,000. So could we see maybe another 5% to the upside on the NASDAQ in the short term after this 12,250 breakout? Could we see the move back up to these previous rejection points and back up to this previous support? That I believe is possible. I believe it is possible to see a move up towards 12,900, 13,000. Getting above that level is a total another story. I'm not so confident on the break of that level. That would be a very major level for the market to break above. You can clearly see if I zoom out the importance of that level. You can see 12,900 to 13,000 right here. Previous support, leg to the downside, turned it into a rejection point. If we move back up to 12,900, I believe that is going to be a very difficult level to get above. So the moral of the story here for me, guys, on the NASDAQ is that the 12,250 breakout is bullish in my opinion. If I go down to the hourly chart once again, I believe it is bullish that the market broke this double top from this month. You can clearly see that we got above that level today during market hours and into the after hours. If we hold above this level moving forward, I believe the momentum to the upside will continue. If I go back to the daily, I think it will continue up towards that 12,900, 13,000 level. I'll have to make an update video if we get to that level. We'll have to see how we start to trade around there, because that is the level I think is going to be very difficult to break above. So that is the NASDAQ. We have 3 consecutive higher lows over the last few weeks. We have a break above a major level, 12,250, and we have some room up to the next rejection point at 13,000. We are still below the long-term downtrend. We are still below the 100 SMA. Those are the technical things that you have to take away from this video. I think the short term, we have maybe some more momentum, but we have to watch out for that major rejection point in 100 SMA up at 12,900, 13,000. So guys, now I want to go ahead and move on to the S&P 500. There's a lot of similarities, but there's some differences that we need to point out. The first thing that I want to point out is the downtrend that starts from around March 29th. If I draw this downtrend from around March 29th, you can see that today we actually closed above that downtrend. This is the first time that we have closed above that downtrend since the downtrend originated back in March. So you can see right here, this is the first close. Today's trading was the first close above that downtrend. Can it hold above it? That's a question we're going to have to answer in the coming weeks. We have a lot of earnings. We have a lot of economic news, so things can definitely change up. But if we just look at the technicals, that is definitely a fact. We have broken above the downtrend and closed above it for the first time since the downtrend originated in March 29th. So that is very important. That's the first thing I want to go ahead and point out. The next thing that I want to point out is the consecutive higher lows that we have seen on the ES as well. You can clearly see it right here. We have the low, we have a higher low, and we have a higher low. That is another thing that I want to go ahead and point out. The next that I want to point out, today was the first break above the 50 SMA since around April 19th. So you can see we did get above the 50 on April 19th. We quickly dropped below. Today was the first time we got back above that 50 since April 19th. Does this hint to more upside? Could we fall right back below it? Absolutely. We have earnings, economic news. We have to stay vigilant. We have to stay on our toes. But this is definitely a sign. This is definitely something to watch on the ES. Now, breaking this down to the 4-hour chart, if there is one thing that I could take away from this move on the S&P 500 is that we did not break the highs on the ES over the last few weeks. So you can see the highs previously were around 39.50. Today, we did not break above those highs on the ES. We did on the NASDAQ. You can see it right here. Very clear break above those highs on the NASDAQ. Double top, break above those highs on the NQ. But if we go over to the ES, you guys can see we did not break these highs. So what is this pointing out to me? This means that there are some sectors within the S&P 500 which are underperforming. Sectors such as XLE, sectors such as the financials that we've seen a little bit of weakness on. Today was a good day for financials, but overall the financials have been relatively weak. So it's showing me that there's some more strength in the tech side of things than there is in the other sectors within the S&P 500. So we have to point that out. We have to recognize that the NASDAQ is finding more strength right now than the S&P 500. We're getting a break above that double top level on the NASDAQ, but we are not seeing it here on the ES. We're seeing a little bit of lag on the ES, a little bit of underperformance. So that is something I'm definitely focusing on and making sure I'm aware of on the S&P 500. We did not break above that double top. So in the coming days, I definitely want to see the S&P 500 break above this 39.50 to give me a little bit more trust that this market is going to continue higher. We have Tesla earnings tomorrow, which could change this all around. We have federal funds decisions next week, which could change this all around to make things just even more interesting for this market. But if we just focus on the technicals, today we did not break above that double top on the S&P 500 of 39.50. That is a level that you are going to want to see the S&P 500 get above if you think there is more upside on this move. Now, the last thing that I want to go ahead and point out here on the S&P 500 for you guys is that if we get above this 39.50, we do have the same type of room to the upside that we had on the NASDAQ. If I go back to the NASDAQ, you guys remember me talking about if we can hold above this 12,250, I think there could be some momentum towards this 12,900, 13,000. This is where the 100 SMA is sitting, and this is where those previous March lows were. You can see March lows, April lows. This is where we broke down. 100 SMA, 12,900, 13,000. Now it is lining up very similar on the S&P 500. You can see we have March lows right here. These are your March lows around 4,100, 4,200. You have your April lows where we eventually broke down below and turned into a rejection point. If the S&P 500 can get above this 3950, if we can start to move within this low volume downside that we saw right here in June, I believe there could be some momentum towards that 100 SMA and the April and March lows. That would be around 4130 to 4200 on the ES. So you can see these markets look very similar. Getting above this top right here around 3950 probably releases a little bit of momentum into that 100 SMA around 4,100, 4,200. That level is the level that we need to be cautious of. Can we get above this level right here, the 100 SMA on the S&P 500? That one I still can't answer. That's a little questionable to me. I think that's a little bit advantageous to think that we're going to get above that level. But can we find some short-term momentum if we break these highs from June? That I believe you can see. I think you can see that short-term upside towards that 4,100, 4,200, which is very similar to the upside that I am pointing at on the NASDAQ. If we can hold above 12,250, can we move up to that 100 SMA? So guys, NASDAQ and S&P 500, the key takeaways. The NASDAQ is showing more strength. It is stronger. It is breaking above the June double top. The S&P, not quite there. If we go to the hourly chart on the NASDAQ, you can see that breaking above this double top has caused a little bit of momentum. If we can hold this double top, I think you are looking at the 100 SMA right around 12,900 to 13,000 according to the technicals. Depending on what happens with tech earnings, with federal funds rate news, this can all be invalidated. As a trader, as someone that's involved in the market, we always need to stay vigilant to macroeconomic events. We can't just look at the charts and know that something is coming. We can prepare for it with the technicals like we're doing today, but we have to understand that macroeconomic events can change the narrative here. So you got a 12,250 break. I think you can see that technical move towards 12,900, the 100 SMA, March lows, April highs. If I go back to the ES, we need to get above 3950 on the ES. We need to break that top from June. If we can get that break, I think there's short-term momentum in this zone up towards around 4,100, 4,200, the 100 SMA. All of this, once again, I will say it once again, all of this can be invalidated tomorrow on Tesla earnings, next week on Apple, Google, Microsoft earnings. All of this can be invalidated due to macroeconomic events, and that is the one thing as a trader you have to remember. I hope you guys did enjoy this analysis. I hope this makes sense to you. Some very key levels to be watching here. If you want to get levels on a daily basis, come to my pre-market live stream. Come hang out, prepare for your morning. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.